I spent over 1,000 hours of live calls, role play, and brutal feedback to master the skill that I'm about to teach you. A skill that literally controls whether your prospect feels certain about buying or certain about walking away. And that skill is tonality. And if you get it wrong, it doesn't matter how perfect your script is, how good your offer is, or even how sharp your closing skills are. If you sound uncertain, rushed, bored, or fake, they're gone. So today I'm going to teach you in 10 minutes what took me 1,000+ hours to truly master so that you can start closing more deals without changing a single word you say. Now, if you're new here, hi, my name is Christian Jack. I've generated over $100 million in sales, been the top closer on 9 different offers at once, and I've coached over 1,000 sales reps. And here's the thing, tonality isn't just sound confident, all right? It's neuroscience. It's controlling the emotional state of the person on the other end of the call without them even realizing it. Now, a special bit of authority I have in this topic before we dive into it is I actually got my bachelor's degree in vocal performance in opera singing. So you're learning tonality here from somebody who actually treats their voice as an instrument, a virtuosic instrument. Your voice is the most beautiful instrument in the world, and it has the absolute most, I don't know if you realize this, but it has the most versatility of any instrument in the world. But yet most people speak in one way, monotone, boring, and it's no wonder that they don't close any deals because they sound fucking boring. Shocking. So here's how to actually use tonality in sales. All right, now there is a saying in behavioral science that says that words make up less than 10% of communication, and the other 90% is tonality and nonverbal communication, all right? On the phone or on Zoom, body language drops way down, so tonality actually carries most of the weight. So tonality is what tells your prospects this person knows exactly where this is going. Tonality is what says I can trust this person. Tonality is what says this person is like me. It's the difference between, so what made you book the call? And so what made you book the call today? Completely different energies. They will cause the prospect to feel completely different emotions, and whichever emotions that they feel is completely up to you. So here's how we can actually use it. Now, in my opinion, in sales, we can go at length in this video about all the different kinds of tonalities that you can use. But if you just learn 3 basic ones, you're probably going to be just fine on almost every call, all right? Number 1 is certainty tonality. This is a slow, steady, articulated, but controlled pace. I use this when I'm delivering pitches, when I'm talking about price, when I'm stating facts, statistics, when I'm talking about other successful clients, or maybe when I'm also reframing an objection. It communicates, I've got this. All right, you are safe here. Here's how this works. All right, very, very simple. Tonality number 2 is curiosity. Now, this is a slightly higher pitch, a little bit of a softer pace, less articulation from word to word, and usually ends in a bit of an upturn. It goes up and then down right at the end. This is used in discovery questions a lot, when we're drawing out emotions, when we're maybe probing and clarifying during objection handling, right? This communicates, tell me more. I'm leaning in, right? And when you say that you've tried XYZ before, like, what do you mean by that? So a little bit up and then down right at the end. You don't want to end completely up because then that sounds like a question, right? What do you mean by that? You want to go up and then down right at the end with like the last word. So what do you mean by that? Okay, hopefully that makes sense. It's very, very simple. And the last tonality that if you can just master, again, these 3, you are completely golden, is empathy. An empathetic tonality. This is warm, slowed pace, dropping almost into a whisper. This is used when you acknowledge pain or urgency, maybe when you're talking about goals. This communicates, I hear you, I understand, right? That sounds exhausting. That sounds so exciting. Anything where the emotions are already present. Okay, so certainty is what makes people feel safe, is what helps people feel safe, I should say, in the conversation. This person knows what they're doing. I'm safe here. We can have an honest conversation. These are the facts, right? And then curiosity is what will start to bring forth the emotions because now they feel safe enough to talk about the emotions. So curiosity is what makes them feel, oh, this person actually cares. They're not just really good at what they do, but they want to know more. about me, about my experiences, about what's going on. And then the empathetic tonality is once the emotions have now come out, how you actually handle them. And if you just master these three, it's almost like having a volume knob, if you will, for your prospect's emotions. And we're not here to manipulate emotions by any means. The emotions are already there. I'm just asking questions and having curiosity about what is there and what isn't there. But this is what will allow them to feel more natural. And most of the time, I know that a lot of people really shit on the skill of tonality because they feel like it's fake. But here's the thing. Tonality isn't fake if you're truly curious, if you're truly certain, if you are truly empathetic. It is fake if you're not those things and you're just putting on the tonality as if you are. So the real trick with tonality, and I'm not going to get into it here, but there's an entire topic in behavioral science called nonverbal leakage, where if you're not truly curious and you're using a curious tone, the other person can still sense that you're not really curious and they'll just think that you're fake because, let's be real, you are. And so the real trick with tonality is being authentic with your tonality in conjunction with just learning the skill, right? Because you can use a curious tone without being truly curious. You can be empathetic in your tone without being truly empathetic. And to an extent, it will still work as a tactic. But I'm not interested in just learning tactics. I'm interested in increasing the probability of great conversations and great decisions. That's what I'm most interested in. So anyway, we'll move on now from number 2 to number 3, how to match and then lead. Now, the brain has something called mirror neurons, and they fire off when we see or we hear someone in a similar state to us in some way. And this also comes from a field of study called hypnotic therapy, where there's a specific term called pacing. Okay. And this is what we're leveraging here. If your prospect comes in and is skeptical, or let's just say they're rushed, right? Really high energy, really rushed. You can't really start at peak certainty, or it will kind of create a sense of resistance, if you will. You know, if you've ever had a prospect come on who's highly skeptical and you're just completely certain, then you've probably noticed that you butt heads a little bit. Or maybe when somebody is super, A-type, they come in with a really strong frame, they just want the price or whatever, and you're just in a completely curious state. It doesn't always work out the best way, and usually you end up butting heads. And a very simple way to get around this without talking about all the questions and the ways that we talk about inside the dojo to really get around it, you can just use this concept of mirror neurons and pacing. Okay, all that this means is that first you match their energy, their tonality, their word choices, even their body language, and then once you're on the same wavelength, you're now connecting a little bit more rather than butting heads. And so if you imagine that you move down, they are kind of forced to come down with you a little bit, right? Not all the way, but a little bit. Or if you move up, they're forced to come with you a little bit. And so you can slowly lead them to where, maybe is more productive energy for them to be. Certainty, urgency, excitement, whatever, by adjusting your tone over the next few minutes and asking the proper questions. So think about it like joining them in their lane and then guiding them to merge into yours, as opposed to just trying to hit them head on, okay? Now, with tonality and really with anything inside of your career, micro shifts are the thing that will change the game for you. So tonality isn't just about making massive swings. It's about the micro shifts that trigger subconscious responses. Things like pausing before key points. That'll allow your brain to catch up, and it signals importance. If I'm just talking and kind of going through the pitch like this, then there's really nothing that you're going to pay attention into until I pause. And immediately it signals to the prospect, oh, this is important. Listen. Downward inflection on commitments is another one. Let's get you started versus let's get you started, right? Certainty and downward inflection is another just easy little micro shift that you can make. Another one is intentional silence. Usually what happens is a prospect will fill the gap. They will reveal more truth about what's going on. I can't tell you how excited I was when I first learned this. I started just using a half-second pause after a prospect finished talking. My discovery depth and just how much emotions and how much detail, how much truth actually came out almost doubled overnight by just allowing space after they talk. And then I move into my next question. It's really interesting. You should try it. Now, the last thing that I want to leave you with today is how to actually practice your tonality in the real world. All right. Number one is practice off of calls first. Just record yourself, whether it be going through your sales pitch, whether it be maybe on a role play with somebody else, even if it's just, you have your script of your questions, just grab your phone, right? Record yourself talking and then play it back and listen and watch. Now, we're not talking about body language today. That'll be in another video. So you don't really even have to watch it. You can just listen, but record yourself saying the questions and see how you sound. What sounds good? What sounds bad? Where should you pause? Where should you not pause? Where should you speed up? Where should you slow down? Where should you go upward inflection? Where should you go downward inflection? What words should you emphasize? Where should you pause? It becomes very, very clear when you actually record yourself and listen to it back, okay? Now, that's off of calls. Also, of course, record your calls, but listen, not just for the words, not just for the questions that you ask, not just for the objections, and, of course, do all those things, but also write down where your tone didn't quite sound right, or maybe where your tone didn't quite match your intention. If you're looking to instill a little bit more certainty into the conversation at a point, up inflection right at the end, then maybe that's not the most certain language, right? Like, listen back, watch for your intentions, and listen to your tone and figure out what needs to change, okay? Now, when you are role playing, another tip that can be really helpful for this is role play in the extremes, okay? Exaggerate certainty, exaggerate empathy, exaggerate curiosity until you can really hit them very naturally without thinking and without it feeling weird, okay? Now, the last thing that I'll say with this is also steal from outside sales. Like, don't just watch sales trainers, watch TED Talks, watch stand-up comedy, right? Watch news anchors and notice how much more adept those people are at leveraging their tonality and their pacing and their cadence, their rhythm, their melody without ever having taken any sort of like sales training potentially. But really great public speakers are fantastic at this. News anchors are fantastic at this. Stand-up comedians are amazing at this. Copy their pacing, their inflections, their pauses. Watch how masterful they are at their actual verbal communication and their delivery. These are people that hold the attention of other human beings for a living. These are people that communicate a message for a living. Why not learn from them? And then just blend it into your own style a bit. All right. This is skill development. So the more you drill, the more you practice, the more natural that it will become. Because here's the reality. You can have the best script in the world, but if your tonality doesn't land, if it doesn't match up to that script, if it doesn't match up to your intentions, your prospect will never feel certain enough to say yes. But if you do master it, then you can take the exact same words, deliver them with the right tone, and watch your close rate jump without changing anything else. Now, if you want the full tonality training, every pattern, when to use it, how to drill it until it's unconscious competence, it's all inside the Sales Dojo. Down in the description, you can join for free for 7 days, get access to all the call breakdowns, the frameworks, the call reviews, all the live coaching, links in the description. Don't just sound good, okay? Sound like the closer or like the salesperson that they want to buy from. I'll see you inside.